So, I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to say for this video, and this actually isn't my first time recording this. And the first thing I can actually come up with is just wing it. Just talk. First and foremost, thank you all for joining me once again. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I appreciate you very much. As you can tell by the title of this video, today we are going to be talking about the future of this channel and where it's headed. Now, I made a video similar to this early last year, and it's more or less going to be the same. Now, let's start off with the obvious thing. Where is NXT TakeOver 2? Now, that's rather difficult to answer. Now, I do have the matches recorded for the show, but this is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. I do have the matches recorded for the show, but every single time I go to sit and edit it, I find myself thinking of every excuse to not work on. And for those of you that have been watching for a while, you can tell that this channel hasn't really been the same for quite some time now. And I say it hasn't really been the same since around sometime in November. And it hasn't been the same for a few reasons. Firstly, I had some things going on in my personal life that really affected my mood, and any creator can tell you that if you're just in a bad mood, or if you're just not feeling it, it would be best to just not record like a voiceover or something similar to that effect, because majority of the time your audience would be able to tell that you're not invested in what it is that you're looking at. And I'd say the majority of you could tell that in a few videos I wasn't exactly invested in what I was putting out. Now, I made the decision to take NXT off of the 2K series for quite a few reasons. The main reason being I was at a point where I could not stand to just deal with anything WWE related. And lucky for me, I finished the series early, probably a bit earlier than I wanted to, but there was no need to drag something out that didn't need to be dragged out. So I ended NXT sometime in August, and I said before in a few videos that I was content with ending the series where it was, because I felt that the ending was good to where we could end the series if we wanted to, but we didn't have to if we didn't want to. And I said that if you guys wanted to see NXT back, then show some support on that last video, which to my surprise, TakeOver New York crossed over 1,000 views, joining TakeOver Brooklyn, which firstly, thank you all for that. I never think any of my videos will ever get 1,000 views. I still don't think any of them will ever get 1,000 views, But subtle surprises like that are very nice. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Um, but after season 2 had ended, I was highly considering not doing a third season. And not due to me losing the figurative creative bug or anything like that. It was just I had other things going on and I had other projects that I wanted to do, and the schedule that I was working, it didn't really offer me that much time to edit together videos the way that I wanted to. And especially with 2K. 2K, if you're going for that realistic look, that realistic feel, you got to use the highlight reel. You got to find all this other stuff. You got to edit it all together. And yes, it's a lot of hard work. Yes, it pays off in the end. But at that point in time, I just couldn't factor all of it together. Now, fast forwarding a few months, where my attitude towards WWE started to take a turn. And I'd say it started to take a turn in, I want to say September, whenever the Clash of Champions pay-per-view was. I was watching that pay-per-view, and I'd say about halfway through. I believe it was at the Sasha versus Becky. I think that match was on the Clash of Champions card. We got to that match, and I realized sitting there that I was just not interested in anything that was going on the card. I remember I spoke with one of the viewers of the channel, and I asked what the card was for the Clash of Champions pay-per-view, because I had no idea. The only match on the card that I knew was Seth versus Braun. Everything else, I couldn't even begin to tell you what the card was. So I was sitting there, I was watching it, and I said to myself, I am just not interested in this whatsoever. And that's when it really started to change. But it ultimately changed at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Now, leading up to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I had pretty much all but knew that I was going to cancel my network subscription. And the ending to Hell in a Cell just signified it. And I said to myself, I need to take a break from this. Because this product that WWE has out right now is just not for me. And now that the amount of time has elapsed, WWE as a whole, it just doesn't appeal to me right now. Whether it's the structure of their matches, or the promos, the scripted promos, some of the storylines, some of the angles that they do, it just doesn't appeal to me. And I think it's not just WWE. I think American wrestling in general right now doesn't appeal to me. Now, WWE is the key factor of why I don't really watch wrestling in North America, but it's not the entire reason. AEW, it's all right. It's not perfect, that's for damn sure, but it's an alternative, I suppose. Now, even my attention with AEW, I got my AEW fix, so to speak. I don't have to watch it every week. I just watch it just for the hell of it. But other promotions like Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, I don't watch too much of it. The majority of the wrestling that I watch that takes place here in the States is indie wrestling. And pretty much the whole reason for that is because of WWE and my attitude towards WWE. And me not wanting to have anything to do with WWE translated over into WWE games. It got to the point where every time I booted up 2K, I just found myself not wanting to play it. And NXT would have came back earlier than what it was. Does that make sense? It would have came back earlier than what it did, but literally every single time I booted up the game, I said, I do not want to play this at all. And not only did it translate into my universe mode, but it translated into other universe modes. Like, I haven't watched Delzinski or Murphs in, I couldn't even tell you how long. The last Murphs episode that I watched was the Go Home show before Survivor Series. I still have not watched Survivor Series. I haven't watched anything past that Go Home show. I haven't watched Delzinski, any new stuff he's put out. The WWE as a whole is just not for me right now. So, combining everything together, me not wanting to have anything to do with anything WWE related, me pretty much not wanting to play 2K, and what I had going on in my personal life, I needed a change of scenery. And that change came in the form of Fire Pro Wrestling. Now, I sang the praises of Fire Pro for God knows how long. You know, I shouted it from the rooftops. Play this game. And how could I forget the absolute disaster that was the launch of 2K20, and YouTube pretty much all but damn near killing smaller channels. There was a whole lot. So the change in scenery that I thought not only did I want, but the change in scenery that I needed came in the form of Fire Pro Wrestling. At least that's what I thought. Now, I posted the video that I had a thought of changing NXT from 2K over to Fire Pro. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense, the more it just felt right to do. And so I pulled the trigger. I said that NXT would be moving over to Fire Pro, and we would be carrying on the series from there. Now, I knew that it wouldn't get as many views as it would if it remained on 2K, but I was willing to take the gamble. And so I posted that first video. It had a pretty good turnout, I'd say. And after recording that, I said to myself, I can make this work. And as time grew on, I found that the issue that I was having was, it wasn't 2K. It pretty much wasn't even WWE. It was wrestling in general. Now, for those of you that don't know, quite a while ago, I watched a ton of wrestling. And I mean a ton of wrestling. On any given day, I would watch at least 6 to 7, maybe 8 matches, all from different companies. And I think it got to the point where I wasn't liking what I was seeing with WWE. So I sought out to find what I would enjoy. And I found what I enjoyed in all these other different companies. So I started watching all of them at the same time. And it created like this wrestling overload to where, as I said, I watched 6, 7, 8 matches from 8 different companies. And then having to turn around and record wrestling, edit wrestling, commentate for wrestling on a wrestling centered channel, I believe it created an overload. And there were some days where I just didn't want to watch wrestling at all. It was the bane of my existence. Other days it'd be the only thing that I would watch. And even still to this day, I say, okay, I need a break from wrestling. I'm not going to watch any wrestling. 5 minutes later, I'm watching wrestling. And I guess you could say it's a blessing and a curse. Wrestling as a whole can be and is a very beautiful thing. But for me, that pretty much being the only thing that I watch, because that's pretty much the only thing that I'm interested in, and then having to turn around and create your own series on YouTube, and especially when I was having editing software problems, I think all the problems that I was having, combined with all the wrestling that I was watching, combined with recording and editing wrestling for a wrestling centered channel, it created this maximum overload. And I want to say that I've gotten better in terms of watching wrestling, but that may or may not be accurate depending on which day of the week you catch me. But even going into making Fire Pro, I actually have the matches for TakeOver 2 recorded. But every time I load them into the editing program, it's like I get this feeling. It's like I just don't want to do this right now. And I mentioned before on Twitter that I was thinking of doing a non-wrestling related channel. And I've been thinking about that for quite some time. And funny enough, I don't know if you guys actually know this, but a while ago I actually joined this group called Raid. I've been meaning to get up with them about doing some stuff together, something similar along the lines of what you would see on maybe New Legacy. So I do have to get up with them about that. But I do have a few ideas for this non-wrestling related channel. However, there's a focal point that I want to be on the channel, and I don't have access to it just yet. There's a few more things that I have to get for it. But I may or may not pull the trigger on it. I'm not entirely sure yet. The door is always open. I have a few ideas, but nothing is set in stone yet. And I was also asked, well, why don't I live stream more? And that's partially due to my apartment complex is kind of rather noisy during the day. I don't exactly live in a streamer friendly apartment complex, and my roommate is kind of loud all the time, and my roommate has a dog. That dog is the bane of my existence. You just don't know. But the only time I would really be able to stream would be late at night. And I know that works for some people, it works for Third Strike, but I'm not entirely sure about that. It could work, but I'm still kind of on the fence about it. As I mentioned before, it's just an idea that I'm toying around with. I'm not entirely 100% sure on anything yet. Like I said, there's still a few things that I have to do and get before I actually would make that a reality. But as I said before, all this changed late last year, and the personal issue that I mentioned is still an ongoing thing, and that in and of itself, it takes a lot of energy out of me, and I have other things that I'm doing. I'm never just sitting on my ass and not doing anything. I'm always doing something. So I do have things going on behind the scenes. So with that being said, and going back just a little bit further to Takeover, as I said, every time I load it into the program, it's just I get this feeling. It's like I don't feel like doing this right now, and I think I need to take a break from wrestling as a whole, because I think that I unintentionally burnt myself out on it. And I think that combined with the things that I have going on off camera, it's physically exhausting. And having to deal with said issue and then try and sit and record it's physically exhausting, and it just leaves me burnt sometimes. And oftentimes I just want to sit, and it's hard to explain. Yeah, it's really hard to explain. But what I do know is I'm gonna take a break, just for a little bit. If you guys want to see some non-wrestling related stuff, I'll think of something. You see, we have some Titanfall gameplay going for you, which this, other than Battlefield 1, is like the only first-person shooter that I'm decent at, I suppose. But I need to take a break. Takeover, it'll come, and I want to say that NXT is to come, but the future of NXT and the future of this channel is up in the air for me right now. And I have a lot on my mind, a lot on my plate, and I've never been one to make my life public on the internet, which, as you guys pretty much can tell, because you've never actually seen my face before. So I'm gonna take a break, just for a little bit. As I said before, the idea of a non-wrestling related channel, it's up in the air. Now, I want to hear what you guys think about it. Do you guys want to see streams? I'm sure that if you guys want to see it, I'm sure I could make it happen. Somehow, some way, come hell or high water, I can make it happen. But in terms of wrestling and doing just wrestling, like I said, I think that watching too much wrestling, it burnt me out. And I think that I just need to step back and reevaluate if I want to carry on doing wrestling related content. Because I am 99% sure that if pretty much the latter half of 2019 just did not absolutely suck, the disaster that was the 2K20 launch, YouTube pretty much all but trying to kill smaller channels, and WWE not being as bad as it was. I think if all that did not happen, I am almost positive that 2K would have remained, or NXT would have remained on 2K, I should say. And I think that simply because I tried to find something else, and I did find something else. I found a whole lot. Holy hot damn, did I find a whole lot. I think by finding all that I did, it did more harm than good. Well, it's weird. I think that I just need to think for a while. My thinking has nothing to say or nothing to do per se with the channel itself. I've always looked at my videos as, even though this took a while to put together, and it always could have been better than what it was, even though this took a while, I am proud of the effort that I put into this, and I'm even more proud that this video, or these videos, got the reception that they did. It was always nice just to see that a video got 50 views or 100 views, or in the case of TakeOver Brooklyn and New York, 1,000 views. It was just nice. Left me feeling warm and fuzzy. But I think that me as an individual, I created an overload on myself, and it shows on the channel. But there's no sense in dragging this along. I've talked for quite some time. I'm not saying this is the end of NXT. because I don't know if this is the end of NXT. I would like it to not be the end, but I also can't force myself to put together the content. I love it. Don't get me wrong. Love it to death. It's absolutely fantastic seeing what I manage to pull off sometimes. But all that's going on, and trust me, there is a lot. All that's going on. I don't know if now is the time to carry on, if that makes sense. I would like to say it's not the end for NXT, but I'm not sure. And I've said before in previous videos that I like doing long-term booking. You know, I said that I have every champion that I'll ever have already planned out. And I would like to see that through to the end. Maybe one day NXT will be back on 2K. Who knows? But I'm not really sure what lies ahead for this series. And trust me, it sucks. Especially me saying that. It sucks. But as I said, I can't force myself to put together the content when the heart isn't there. And I don't even know if you guys can be able to tell in my commentary. You know, those Fire Pro episodes, they've been great. But my heart was never in it. We'll see. We'll see what lies ahead for the channel in the future. But until the time comes for wrestling to come back on the channel, let me know what you guys think of launching a non-wrestling related channel. And I could just start non-wrestling related content on this channel, but I think a fresh new start, a fresh new coat of paint is well in order. So if you guys made it all the way through, firstly, thank you. I have no idea how you made it through, but thank you for sticking around. Secondly, let me know what you think. If you want to see a non-wrestling related channel, we can do that. I can cook something up. So until the next time, until we meet again, and until the next video, whatever that may be, whenever that may be, I'll catch you guys later. I have been Angelus. You have been awesome. And we will see you all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.